why do I end up fighting an inner battle with myself? So often we set out with the best of intentions. We think, okay, here's what I'm going to do, and then we go to do it. But then we feel not even external challenges, they of course can happen too, but we feel kind of an inner obstacle, kind of an argument or a battle that we sometimes have with ourselves. So there are any number of examples of where this manifests, and feel free to share your own in the comments. I can think of several that come to mind already. But one classic example is it's a cold winter's day. Let's say it's January at the start of a new year, and you've set some New Year's resolutions. I'm going to be fit and healthy in this year. And you genuinely are committed to that. You really, really want it. There's no sense in which you don't. However, the problem is there's also kind of another part of you, another module almost within you, who doesn't disagree with the idea of being fit and healthy. That's cool. However, this other part of you, this other kind of belief system that you have, this other bit of software that's running, says something along the lines of, it'd be really, really nice to stay in bed longer in the morning. It'd be lovely after a busy day at work to just collapse on the couch and chill out. It'd be lovely to just relax. So we can see the problem here is it's not so much that there's a part of you that wants to be fit and there's a part that doesn't. It's more that there's a part of you that wants to be healthy and fit and another part that wants to relax. Now, they're all good things. That's what makes this tricky. You know, the road to hell being paved with good intentions. It's rare that there's just sheer negativity versus sheer positivity. It's more that there are different positive things that can sometimes kind of knock into each other. So I think that's a helpful way of thinking about what it is like to be a person. We have these different modules. You know, we may be one person, but we have these different belief systems that run rather like your computer, your phone will have different apps, different pieces of software that will run. And they, for the most part, are compatible with each other. And it's an advantage to have those different pieces of code that run because they do different things for you. But where it becomes a problem is they can make the system crash sometimes if they're trying to use the same resources at the same time. And that's where it gets tricky. So many systems, we use the example of a vehicle, like a car. A car has the accelerator and it also has the brake. You know, so likewise, it's not that either is right or wrong, but it's the case that you want to use the right one in the right moment. So if we take that example and bring it back to the fitness example, you probably want to kind of broker a deal to some degree where you do get to relax, because that is important, but you also do get to get fit and be active as well. So usually it's about kind of consolidating them to some degree and not just getting stuck in one mode or the other, because they kind of both need each other, like the accelerator and the brake. It's not that one is the good one is the bad one. They're both a necessary part of operating a vehicle. And to think about those different modules, some complicated systems and train systems, old trains in particular, used to have, rather than an automated braking system where all the carriages brakes operate based on what's happening in the engine room, some of the old systems would have manual brakes. So there would actually be individual people who would manually start to brake the carriages because it wasn't a completely joined up system. So it's a little bit like that almost. If you imagine one person, one of the brakes people with the best of intentions thinks, okay, I need to put the brakes on now for safety. That's good. However, the person in the engine room is going full steam ahead. And there's a sort of a push and a pull going on. So I think in many ways, that's what the inner battle is. So if you can resolve all inner battles, you may well be amongst the first to do so, because in a way, living in the world that we live in as human beings is to live in a world of duality where there are ups and downs and lefts and rights and so many conflicting things. And we have to try and find balance between freedom and safety and warmth and cold and, you know, all of these different things that are just part of what it is to function in the world. So it's nice to have an attitude, I think, to begin with, of not trying to nail all these things and then just sit back and relax, but more getting good at, like the accelerator and the brake, and noticing maybe when you're doing a bit too much of one and a bit too much of the other, and then pulling it back and, trying to find that balance at some point as you continue. So an attitude, you could probably describe it, of collaboration rather than competition is useful. And just if you start from the very outset by, rather than beating yourself up for any of the feelings that are there, but recognizing them. So in that example, when you're out on that winter morning and you're exercising, and, that voice, or maybe even before you get out, that voice says, I'm not in that place right now to do it. And you're stopping in that moment and you're saying, well, is that true? What's the positive intent behind that kind of inner voice that says, you're not in a place to do this? Is it right? Because maybe it is. Maybe you've been overdoing it in your exercise every day for weeks, and it is actually time to relax a bit more. It could be completely on the money. However, it may not be, but it still may be well-intentioned. So maybe you want to respond to that by saying, relaxation is a fabulous idea after I'm active, because being active is actually going to make me feel energized and well within myself, and that's good and that's appropriate. Or on other occasions, there might be a bit of a compromise reached where you go, well, I was going to run 20 miles. However, you know what? There's a point to be made for relaxing to some degree. So I'm going to do something less than that, something a bit more minimal, or I'm going to break it up into different sessions. And that might actually be helpful overall, because you may actually get more fit that way, because if you're overdoing it, you're putting too much strain on your system. So when looking at inner battles, I think thinking about it in that modular way, trying to have all the carriages work with the engine room as much as possible, trying to keep the overall system in sync. That's the aim. And again, while you mightn't quite nail all of this in one single moment or one sitting, if you're approaching it in this way with that sense of sort of kindness and understanding, but at the same time, being decisive enough and recognizing the overall picture of what needs to happen, that tends to be a much more effective way to keep things moving forward. If you found this valuable, do like, subscribe, and share. And what's your experience? Do you have any questions or topic suggestions? You can contribute in the comments, on social media using #bodymindself, or on jfl.com.